Creator of the universe, great and holy God, your wisdom rules the world. You give strength to the weak and give courage to the faint of heart. In your care are our lives and our destinies. Your love sustains us and shields us. Blessings without number you bestow upon us. We thank you for the life which you have given us and for the abundance of gifts with which you have favored us during the past year. Now, at the beginning of this new year, we humbly ask that you grant us life and sustenance, contentment and peace. We pray together on page 57, the soul which you have given me
came pure from you. You have created it. You have formed it. You have breathed it into me. You have preserved it in my body, and at the appointed time you will take it from this earth, that it may enter into eternity. While the breath of life is within me, I will worship you, sovereign of the world and creator of all souls. We praise you, O God, in whose hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all mortal beings.
Ruler of all worlds, not in reliance upon our own merit do we present our prayers before you, but trusting in your infinite mercy alone. For what are we? What is our life? What our goodness? What our power? What can we say in your presence? Are not all the mighty as naught before you, and those of great renown as though they had never been? The wisest as if without knowledge, and those of understanding as if without discernment? Many of our works are vain, and our days pass away like a shadow. Our lives would be altogether vanity were it not for the soul which, fashioned in your image, gives us assurance of our higher destiny and imparts to our fleeting days an abiding worth. Together we say, help us to banish from our hearts
self-centeredness, pride of worldly possessions, and arrogance. Fill us instead with the spirit of humility and the grace of modesty, that we may grow in wisdom and in reverence. May we never forget that all we have and prize is but lent to us, a trust for which we must render account unto you. Open our minds and our hearts to your loving presence, that we may consecrate our lives to your service and glorify your name in the eyes of all people.
Almighty and merciful God, who has called our people to your service, you have opened our eyes to behold your wondrous works and to proclaim your will unto the nations. You are the same today as you were at the beginning. You are our God in this life, and you are our hope and refuge in the world to come. O God, you have made the Torah our way of life,
and have given us a beautiful heritage. Open our eyes to the enduring worth of the Torah and help us to exemplify it in our lives, so that we may draw all people to its ways of righteousness. Gather all your children around the banner of truth, that your name may be hallowed through us. May the entire human family be blessed with harmony and peace. Amen.
The Birkot HaShachar, the blessings of the morning, and the Pesukei de Zimra, the verses of Psalmody, which are the start of the service, are concluded. We stand now for the call to worship, the Baruch Hu, on page 59. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMavorach. Praise the eternal God, to whom all praise is due. Baruch Adonai HaMavorach le'olam va'ed. Let us praise the eternal God, to whom all praise is due, now and forever. We continue now on page 60. We praise you, eternal God, ruler of the world. In your mercy, you make light to shine over the earth and all its inhabitants, renewing daily the work of creation. How manifold are your works, O God! In wisdom you have made them all. The heavens declare your glory. The earth reveals your creative power. You form light and darkness, ordain good out of evil, bring harmony into nature and peace to the human heart. You laid the foundations of the earth.
The heavens are your creation. They may perish, but you will endure. Your years have no end. Everlasting God, creator of heaven and earth, rule over us forever. We praise you, eternal God, creator of light.
Ahava rabba ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu. Great has been your love for us and your compassion boundless. Our people put their trust in you, and you taught them the law of life. Be gracious to us that we may understand and fulfill the teachings of your word. Enlighten our eyes through your Torah, that we may embrace your commandments. Unite our hearts to love and revere you. We trust in you and rejoice in your guiding power, for from you comes our help.
You have called us and drawn us near unto you, to serve you in faithfulness. Joyfully we lift up our voices and proclaim your unity. We praise you, God, for in love you have called upon your people Israel to serve you.
We recite now the watchword of our faith. These the words of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the eternal is our God. The eternal God is one. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Let us praise God who rules in glory forever and ever. Please be seated.
You shall love the eternal God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be upon your heart. You shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be a symbol before your eyes. You shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, that you may remember and do all my commandments, and be holy unto
We pray responsively on page 63 of our Machzorim. True and enduring is your word, which you have spoken through your prophets.
You are the living God. Your words bring life and light to the soul.
You are the strength of our life, the rock of our salvation. Your dominion and your truth abide forever.
You have been the help of our parents in time of trouble, and our refuge throughout all generations.
You are the first and the last, and besides you there is no Redeemer nor Helper.
As you have saved Israel from Egyptian bondage, so may you send your help to all who are oppressed.
May your teachings inspire the hearts of all your children, and your truth unite us in bonds of friendship.
May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your grace and triumph by your power.
O God, our refuge and our hope, we glorify your name now, as did our people in ancient days.
The
Sur Yisrael, O Rock of Israel, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, redeem those who are oppressed and deliver those who are persecuted. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael, we praise you, our Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. We praise you, God of our mothers and fathers, God of Abraham, God of Sarah, and all their generations. You bestow loving kindness upon all your children. You remember the devotion of those who came before us. In your love, you bring redemption to their descendants for the sake of your name. You are our ruler and helper, our Savior and protector. Remember us unto life, O Sovereign, who delights in life, and inscribe us in the book of life for your sake, O God of life. We praise you, Eternal One, shield of Abraham and help of Sarah. We continue now on page 67 as we stand for the Kedusha. We sanctify your name on earth as the heavens declare your glory, and in the words of the prophet we say, Holy, holy, holy is the God of all creation. The whole universe is full of God's glory. Adir Adirenu, Adonai Adonenu, Ma'adir Shimcha b'chol ha'aretz. God our strength, God our ruler, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Blessed be the glory of God in all the world. Our God is one. God is our creator and ruler. God is our helper who in mercy will answer our prayers in the sight of all the living. The Eternal One, your God, shall reign forever, from generation to generation. Hallelujah. Please be seated. From generation to generation, we will declare your greatness, and throughout all ages proclaim your holiness. Your praise shall never cease from our lips. We praise you. You are the God of holiness. In the twilight of the vanishing year, we open our hearts and minds to you, O God. Our souls are stirred by the memory of joy as the new year begins.
We were sustained by love and kindness, comforted in times of sorrow. We found happiness in our homes and gladness with our friends. We lift up our hearts in thanksgiving as the new year begins.
Yet there were dreams that came to naught, and times when we refused to dream. These, with much regret, we now remember as the new year begins.
Some of our days were dark with grief. Many a tear furrowed our cheeks. We grieve for the tender ties that were broken. We look back with sorrow as the new year begins.
Now we look ahead with hope. giving thanks for the daily miracle of renewal, for the promise of good to come. May this Rosh Hashanah, birthday of the world, be our day of renewal unto life and peace, serenity and safety, as the new year begins.
As the new year begins, so is hope reborn within us.
Look with favor upon us, and may our service ever be acceptable unto you. We praise you, God, whom alone we serve, in reverence.
We gratefully acknowledge that you are the God of all people, the God of all generations. You are the rock of our lives, the power that shields us in every age. We thank you for our lives which are in your hands, for your souls which are ever in your keeping, for the signs of your presence which we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. You are goodness, your mercies never fail. You are compassion, you have always been our hope.
For all these things, Almighty God, let your name be forever exalted and blessed, our Redeemer and Helper. Let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Eternal God, whose nature is goodness, we offer you our gratitude and praise. Our God, God of all generations, may your blessing rest upon us according to the gracious promise of your word, spoken through the priests of the ancient temple who said, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God bestow favor upon you and give you peace.
Grant
us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace.
And enable our people Israel to be its messenger unto all the world. Bless our country that it may ever be a stronghold of peace and its advocate in the Council of Nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and harmony among the inhabitants of all lands. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart.
Inscribe us in the book of life, and grant unto us a year of health, prosperity, and contentment. We praise you, O God, giver of peace. Amen.
Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uveracha. Sim shalom, sim shalom.
And now for a moment, let us pray silently, either the words of the prayer book or any other prayers that our hearts might prompt us to pray.
and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, O God, my rock and my redeemer.
And now, as we continue the Avinu Malkeinu, I'd like to invite my wife, Janet Kramer, to come up to the bima for the honor of opening up the doors of the Aron HaKodesh. And as she's ascending the bima, I'd like to say to you that as we do the Avinu Malkeinu, we're going to alternate between Avinu Malkeinu, which literally means our father, our king, or our ruler, our parent, our ruler. We'll alternate between Avinu Malkeinu and Imenu Malchatenu, our mother, our ruler, or our mother, our sovereign. And now let us all stand. We pray responsively. Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our prayer.
Imenu Malchatenu Chatanu Lefanecha.
Imanu Malchatenu, have sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu Chamol Aleinu Vi'al Olalenu Vitapenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have mercy upon us and upon our children.
Imenu Malchatenu Kale Dever V'chere V'ra'av Me'alenu.
Imenu Malchatenu, keep far from our world pestilence, war, and famine.
Avinu Malkeinu Kale Kol Tsar Umastin Me'alenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, cause all hatred and oppression to vanish from the earth.
Imenu Malchatenu Katvinu B'Sefer Chayim Tovim.
Imenu Malchatenu, inscribe us for blessing in the book of life.
Avinu Malkeinu, Imenu Malchatenu, Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, Imenu Malchatenu, grant unto us a year of happiness.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Aleinu, Ki ein banu ma'asim. Embrace us and heal us, renew and redeem us, for helpless and weak here we stand. Grant us your loving care. Bless us with strength and peace. Help us to seek and offer forgiveness
first, the left door first. Close the doors. Please be seated. We continue now with Seder Kriyat HaTorah, with the service for the reading of Torah. And I'd like to invite Rabbi Devin Lerner and Jill Silverstein to come up for the honor of the opening of the door and taking the Sefer Torah from the Aron HaKodesh. It shall come to, we're on page 76, by the way. It shall come to pass in the end of days that the mountain of God's house shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the eternal, to the house of the God of Jacob, that we may be taught the way, and that we may walk in God's path. For out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
In kamocha v'Elohim Adonai ve'in k'machaseh.
Let us stand.
Malechutecha, malechut ko'alamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor vador.
Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai.
I'm going to take a walk.
Okay. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Nosei Avon, V'Fesha v'Chata'a v'Nakeh. The eternal God is merciful and gracious, endlessly patient, loving and true, showing mercy to every generation, forgiving iniquity and sin, and granting pardon. Okay, close the door. We continue responsively. This is the covenant which binds our people Israel to the one and eternal God.
This is the Torah, a light for our eyes, a lamp for our way.
This is the law that proclaims the guiding power of God and the unity of all people.
We have been told what is good and what God expects of us.
To do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. Beit Yaakov, L'chu v'nei Chaba Adonai, O house of Jacob, come, let us walk by the light of the eternal God, ever proclaiming the watchword of our faith. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the eternal is our God, the eternal God is one. Shana Tova.
Lecha Adonai HaGedula veHaGevura veHaTiferet כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני המלוך, ועמית יעשה לכל ראש.
Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Please be seated.
Praise God, to whom all praise is due. Let us praise God, to whom all praise is due, now and forever. We praise you, ruler of the universe. You have called us from all people by giving us the Torah. We praise you, eternal God, giver of the Torah.
Amen. The Torah reading, by the way, is found on page 80 of your Machzorim. If you want to follow through in the Hebrew, it will be translated following the reading of the Torah. ויהי אחר הדברים האלה, והאלוהים נישא את אברהם ויאמר אליו, אברהם, ויאמר הנני, ויאמר קח נא את בנך את יחידך אשר אהבת את יצחק, ולך לך אל ארץ המוריה, והעלהו שם לעולה על אחד ההרים אשר אומר אליך. וישכם אברהם בבוקר, ויחבוש את חמורו, ויקח את שני נעריו איתו, ואת יצחק בנו, ויבקע עצי עולה, ויקום וילך אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים. ביום השלישי, ויישא אברהם את עיניו, וירא את המקום מרחוק, ויאמר אברהם אל נעריו, שבו לכם פה עם החמור, ואני והנער נלך עד כה, ונשתחווה ונשובה עליכם. ויקח אברהם את עצי העולה, וישם על יצחק בנו, ויקח בידו את האש ואת המאכלת, וילכו שניהם יחדיו. ויאמר יצחק אל אברהם אביו, ויאמר אבי, ויאמר הנני בני, ויאמר הנה האש והעצים והיה הסלע עולה. ויאמר אברהם אלוהים יראה לו הסלע עולה בני, וילכו שניהם יחדיו. ויבוא אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים, ויבן שם אברהם את המזבח, ויערוך את העצים, ויעקוד את יצחק בנו, וישם אותו על המזבח ממעל לעצים, וישלח אברהם את ידו, ויקח את המאכלת לשחוט את בנו. ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני מן השמיים, ויאמר אברהם, אברהם, ויאמר הנני, ויאמר אל תשלח ידך אל הנער ואל תעש לו מאומה, כי אתה ידעתי כי ירא אלוהים אתה, ולא חסכת את בנך, את יחידך ממני. ויסף להם את עיניו, וירא, והנה איל אחר נאחז בסבך בקרניו. וילך אברהם ויקח את האיל ויעלהו לעולה תחת בנו. ויקרא אברהם שם המקום ההוא אדוני יראה, אשר יאמר היום בהר אדוני יראה. ויקרא מלאך אדוני אל אברהם שנית מן השמיים ויאמר, בי נשבעתי נאום אדוני, כי יען אשר עשית את הדבר הזה, ולא חסכת את בנך, את יחידך. כי ברכך והרבה את זרעך ככוכבי השמיים, וכחול אשר על שפת הים. וירש זרעך את שער אויביו, והתברכו בזרעך כל גויי הארץ. עקב אשר שמעת בקולי. וישב אברהם אל נעריו ויקומו וילכו יחדיו אל באר שבה. וישב אברהם בבאר שבה.
Now, after these events, it was that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, he said, here I am. God said, pray take your son, the only one whom you love, Isaac, and go forth to the land of Moriah, and offer him up there as an offering upon one of the mountains that I will tell you of. Abraham started early in the morning. He saddled his donkey, he took his 2 servants with him, and Isaac his son. He split the wood for the offering and went to the place that God had told him of. On the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. Abraham said to his servants, you stay here with the donkey, and I and the young boy will go yonder. We will bow down and then return to you. Abraham took the wood for the offering. He placed it upon Isaac his son. In his hand he took the fire and the knife. Thus the 2 of them went together. Isaac said to Abraham his father, Father. He said, here I am, my son. He said, here are the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the offering? Abraham said, God will provide for the offering, my son. Thus the 2 of them went together. They came to the place of which God had told them. There Abraham built the sacrificial site and arranged the wood and bound Isaac his son. He placed him on the sacrificial site atop the wood. Abraham stretched out his hand. He took the knife to slay his son. But the Eternal's messenger called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. He said, here I am. He said, do not stretch out your hand against the young boy. Do not do anything to him. For now I know that you are in awe of God. You have not withheld your son, your only one, from me. Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw, there was a ram caught in the thicket by its horns. Abraham took the ram and offered it up as an offering in place of his son. Abraham called the name of that place Adonai Yereh, as the saying is today, on the Eternal's mountain it is seen. Now the Eternal's messenger called to Abraham a 2nd time from heaven and said, God says, by myself I swear indeed, because you have done this thing and you have not withheld your son, your only one. Indeed, I will bless you. I will make your seed many, yes, many, like the stars of the heavens and like the sand that is on the shore of the sea. Your seed shall inherit the gate of their enemies. All the nations of the earth shall enjoy blessing through your seed in consequence of your hearkening to my voice. Abraham returned to his servants, They arose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham stayed in Beersheba.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
We praise you, eternal God, ruler of the universe. You have given us the Torah of truth, implanting within us eternal life. We praise you, giver of the Torah.
It was Janet who said to me this morning, you know, you would think after 55 years in the rabbinate, you've done it all, but you haven't. So we're going to do something new today, something I've never done before. I retranslated the Haftarah, the reading of the prophets from the first chapter of the book of 1 Samuel anew, and recast it as the text really is, into the form of a play, actually. There are 4 parts. There's a narrator, and that's Lily, and a Hannah. Hannah is one of the characters here. That's Gail. Elkanah, who is Hannah's husband. That's David, and Eli. That's the priest at Shiloh, and that's Leslie. I'm going to start by the blessing over the Haftarah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek.
There was a man from Ramatzim Sophim in the highlands of Ephraim. His name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other was Peninnah. While Peninnah had children, Hannah had none. Now Elkanah's practice was to go up annually from his city to worship and to offer sacrifices to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh, where the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Pinchas, were the priests of God. On the day when Elkanah offered a sacrifice, he would give portions to his wife Peninnah and her sons and daughters. But to Hannah, he would give a double portion because he loved Hannah, and God had made her barren. As a result, Hannah's rival would frequently torment her to the point that Hannah would complain, God having made her barren. And that's what happened every year whenever she went up to the house of the God. And whenever Peninnah would torment her, Hannah would weep and not eat. Once, when that happened, Elkanah, her husband, said to her,
Hannah, why do you weep? Why don't you eat? Why are you so sad? Am I not better than 10 sons?
One time, Hannah got up after eating and drinking and went to the temple of God. There, Eli the priest was sitting on a chair beside the entrance. Bitter in spirit, Hannah prayed to God there and wept. As she did, Hannah made a vow, saying,
Lord of hosts, if you will look upon your servant's affliction and keep me in mind and not forget your servant, and give me a man-child. I will dedicate him to God for life, and no razor will ever come upon his head."
But it was, as Hannah continued to pray before God, that Eli watched her mouth. Hannah was praying silently. Though her lips were moving, Hannah made no sound. Eli, therefore, took her for a drunkard and said to her,
"How long, woman, are you going to carry on drunk like this? Get rid of your wine."
"No, my lord, you are wrong. I am a sober and downcast woman. I have not had any wine or liquor. What you have seen is me pouring out my heart before God. Don't take me for some debased, unscrupulous servant. I have been speaking all this time totally out of heavy grief and sorrow."
Then go in peace, and may the God of Israel favorably grant your request.
"And may I, your humble servant, ever find favor in your eyes."
With that, Hannah went on her way, ate, and was no longer downcast. The next morning, they got up early, worshiped before God, and returned to their home in Ramah. Sometime after that, God was mindful of Hannah. In due time, as Elkanah knew his wife, she conceived. Hannah gave birth to a son, whom she called Samuel, with the meaning, "I asked him of God and was heard." After that, the next time Elkanah and his entire household went up to Shiloh to make the daily sacrifices to God along with his vow, Hannah did not go up with them. Hannah said to her husband,
"I'll go again once the child is weaned. Then we will appear there before God, where Samuel will abide for all time."
Hannah, do what seems right to you. Stay until you have weaned him. Only may God fulfill God's word.
So the woman Hannah stayed and nursed her son until she weaned him. Then, having weaned him, Hannah brought Samuel with her, along with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of meal, and an earthenware jug of wine, to the house of the God at Shiloh. The boy Samuel was but a young child then. After slaughtering the bull, they brought the child Samuel to Eli, where Hannah said,
"Oh, my lord Eli, on oath as my Lord lives, I am the same woman who was standing here praying to God. It was for this child, Samuel, that I prayed, and God granted the request that I asked. I therefore dedicate him to God. For as long as he lives, Samuel is lent to God."
And with that, they all worshiped God there.
Let us praise the eternal God, ruler of the universe, the rock of all creation, the righteous one of all generations, the faithful God whose word is deed. For the Torah, for the privilege of worship, for the prophets, and for this day of remembrance that has been given to us for joy and gladness, for honor and glory. We thank and praise you. May your name be praised forever by every living being. We praise you, eternal God, who sanctifies the house of Israel and the day of remembrance. We continue now with Seder Tekiyat HaShofar, the service for the sounding of the shofar, and the text is found on page 99. In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you shall hold a sacred assembly and abstain from work. You shall mark it by sounding the shofar. The stirring sound of the shofar proclaimed the covenant at Mount Sinai, which bound our people Israel to God as a community of priests and a holy people. Ever since that distant day, the voice of the shofar has resounded throughout the communities of Israel, awakening our allegiance to God and the Torah. At the new moon, on joyous festivals, as well as on the solemn days of repentance, and in the Jubilee year when liberty was proclaimed throughout the land, our ancestors hearkened to the sound of the shofar and recalled their obligation to serve God with all their hearts and with all their strength. Together we pray, thus do we, their descendants,
prepare to hearken once again to the solemn sound of the shofar. May it challenge us to struggle against the forces of evil within our hearts and in the world. May it arouse within us the will to righteousness and strengthen our trust in God's justice and love. May it direct our thoughts to the day when the shofar will be sounded for the redemption of all humanity.
Ashrei ha'am yodei teruah, Adonai ba'or panecha yehalechun. Happy are the people who know the joyful sound. They shall walk, O Eternal, in the light of your presence. All things have their beginning to God. So does the Eternal One continue to guide and sustain all creation. One eternal law, one divine presence links star to star, cloud to cloud in the depths of time and space. All your works, O God, glorious in their interwoven oneness, are a never-ending psalm to you. You are the ruler of all the universe. Your love is law. Yours is the world, and your dominion endures to all eternity. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
The heavens were made by the word of the Eternal One, their starry array by the power of God's thought.
The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim God's creative work.
Yet even these offer a mere glimpse of your ways, and how faint a whisper we hear of you.
This is the day of the world's birth. This day all creation stands before God.
As we are your children, so of parents' compassion, we look to you for forgiveness. May your countenance shine upon us and be gracious to us, O God of all creation.
We hear now the blessing over the sounding of the shofar.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar.
We praise you, eternal God, ruler of the universe, who sanctifies us by your commandments and calls us to hear the sound of the shofar. We thank you, eternal God, ruler of the universe. You have kept us alive. You have sustained us that we might live to this time.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu
man has
Amen. We stand for the sounding of the shofar. Tikiyah. Teruah. Tikiyah. Tikiyah. Shivarim. Tikiyah. Tikiyah. Shivarim Teruah. Tikiyah. Please be seated.
For the mountains shall depart, and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from you, neither shall my covenant of peace be removed. Saith the Lord, saith the Lord, who has compassion upon you.
The Eternal is our judge. The Eternal is our lawgiver. The Eternal is our ruler.
God has remembered the covenant forever, the world which has been commanded to 1,000 generations.
The Eternal is good to all. God's tender mercies are over all God's creation.
The eternal God is God of wisdom. By God alone are our actions weighed.
God shapes the hearts of all and considers all of our actions, for God knows us. God remembers that we are of dust.
As parents have compassion upon their children, so does the Eternal One have compassion upon those who conduct themselves with reverence.
God of all lands and ages, we stand at Sinai every day. The ground under our feet is holy. The light which shines for us is yours. The world burns with your presence. Your purpose blazes unconsumed in every particle of matter and every moment of time. Undimmed, your voice calls out. We need only listen. You are just beyond the horizon of the mind, a vision new to us, yet seen before, like a memory of the future, a promise already kept. There have been many moments of revelation in the life of our people. Abraham and Sarah called to their journey. Jacob dreaming of a ladder to link heaven and earth. Moses turning aside of his way to look with new eyes at the common bush burning with a divine flame. All Israel transfigured at Sinai. Did our people, so often acquainted with miracle and disaster, see you once again in more recent days of terror and sad triumph? We remember the prophets whose vision will never grow dim.
We remember the sages for whom goodness was their daily sustenance. And as we remember, we affirm the heritage that gives our lives a purpose. May we be ever mindful of you and our obligations to serve you. Kindle within us faith that you are ever near us, so that our souls may be aflame with zeal for your Torah. May we never forget that we are bound to you by an ancient covenant, and that only through fidelity to this pledge can we be worthy to stand in your presence.
We stand now for the sounding of the shofar. Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shivarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shivarim Teruah. Tekiah. Please be seated.
For the mountain shall depart, and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from you, neither shall my covenant of peace be removed, saith the Lord, saith the Lord, who has compassion upon you.
We continue responsively. Shout unto the Eternal One, all the earth. Break forth and sing for joy. Yes, sing praises.
With trumpets and the sound of the shofar, shout before the Creator, the eternal God.
Sound the shofar at the new moon, at the full moon for our solemn day, for it is a statute unto Israel, an ordinance from the God of our ancestors.
Sing praises unto God. Sing praises. Sing praises unto our ruler. Sing praises.
All you inhabitants of the world and you dwellers on earth, when the banner is lifted upon the mountains, see, and when the shofar is sounded, hearken.
Praise the Eternal according to God's abundant greatness. Praise God with the sounding of the shofar.
Now we call to mind the great moment when our people stood at Sinai and heard the sound of the shofar. There our people entered into the covenant to be God's witnesses to the world. From there they went forth to proclaim the laws by which the free may flourish and the enslaved find hope. That covenant we renew each time we hear the sound of the shofar. From that day to this have we encountered you again and again on the path of life. Time and again, O God, we have found you present at the unexpected times.
Not sunsets alone awaken us to your glory, nor mountains soaring immense. Even in dense daily routine, we become suddenly aware of your presence, so endlessly revealed amid your concealments. You stand awaiting our search, comforting our wounded spirits, and leading us with many a fall upward to heights we fear to climb. All this we hear, all this we remember, when the voice of the shofar, unique among sounds, is heard.
Again, we stand for the sounding of the shofar. Tekiah. Shivarim Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shivarim. Tekiah. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shivarim Teruah. Tekiah Gedolah. Please be seated.
For the mountains shall depart, and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from you, neither shall my covenant of peace be removed. Saith the Lord, saith the Lord, who has compassion upon you.
We continue now with the prayer for the country.
O God, as we embark upon this new year, we ask that you bless our beloved country and all its inhabitants. We are grateful for this land built on foundations we may call our own, pledged to law and freedom, to equality and harmony. May it once again be a haven for the huddled masses yearning to be free, rich in opportunity, beneficiary of the talents and devotion of all who make it their home. Guard our nation from calamity and injury. Enlighten with your wisdom and sustain with your power those whom the people have set in authority, the president, counselors and advisors, the judges, lawmakers, and executives, and all who are entrusted with our safety and with the guardianship of our rights and our liberties. In this hour of dedication, as our hearts overflow with gratitude for the countless blessings of our daily lives, we humbly confess, O God, in the pride of our achievement, of our power and wealth, that we all too frequently become arrogant. We avert our eyes and harden our hearts. We are insensitive to the pain of forgotten, multitudes excluded from the American dream. Many of our brothers and sisters, Americans all, are still victims of prejudice and suffer deprivation. Opportunity, equality, and justice, even after 2 centuries, are for them still only distant dreams.
Help us, dear God, to fulfill the promise of America. May we hold our land true to its traditions, renew in all of us a zeal for justice, awaken within us compassion and mercy for the hungry and homeless. So may we enter upon the future with renewed dedication to make real the American dream. Amen.
This is a prayer for our Jewish community. Our lot has fallen in pleasant places, O God. We feel keenly this day your rich gifts to us. The American experience is, for the Jewish people, unique in our history. We thank you for the privilege of sharing our countless blessings of our land and for the opportunities to contribute to its well-being. We are also aware that a mystic tie unites the household of Israel throughout the world. We share with Jews everywhere a common history and a common destiny. You have taught us, our God and God of our people, that all the children of Israel are responsible for one another. Be with our brothers and sisters whose lives are made hard because they are Jews. Give them strength to endure and lead them soon from bondage to freedom, from darkness to light. We remember, O God, we will not, we cannot forget the pain of our fellow Jews. Everywhere is our pain. Auschwitz is our experience. The Jewish people reborn is our joy. We were with our brothers and sisters in darkness. We are with them in the emerging light. May your favor rest upon the land of Israel, its diverse peoples and faith communities. Protect Israel against hatred and war. Grant that the promise of its origins soon may be fulfilled in peace and harmony. May the new year bring nearer the fulfillment of its longing for peace with its neighbors. May the bonds of fate and of faith which unite the Jewish people in all lands be a source of strength to all. Grant that we, the Jews of America, secure in our freedom and conscious of our opportunities and responsibilities, may go forward with vision and dedication. May we grow both in wisdom and in compassion, so that through us your name, O God, may be sanctified in the eyes of all humanity. Amen.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You read so well. Beautiful. We continue now with Seder Hachnasat Torah, with the service for the returning of Torah to the Aron HaKodesh, found on the bottom of page 109. Let us all stand. O God, you have led our people with never-ending love. From the very beginning of our existence, you destined us for a sacred task, to toil for the speedy dawn of that age when you will be revered the whole world over, and all humanity will live in peace and unity. Joyfully,
we consecrate ourselves anew today to the great task our ancestors began long ago. Ours too shall be the ceaseless aim to bring ever nearer that blessed age, when this shall be the faith of the entire human race.
One God over all, one human family of all. It is a tree of life to those who hold it fast, and all who cling to it find happiness. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Eitz chayim hi l'machazikim ba. v'tomcheha me'ushor, deracheha darchei noam, v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, chadesh yamenu kekedem. Cause us to return, O God, and we shall be restored. Renew our days as of old. Please be seated. One of my favorite lines in all of our liturgy comes from Pirkei Avot, that so often quoted tractate of the Mishnah. The line I'm referring to was written by a Tana named Ben Bagba, a sage whose identity for a certain we don't even know either who he was or exactly when he lived. But the line is well known. It goes, Hafoch ba v'hafoch ba dechula ba, which means in translation, turn it and turn it again, or everything is in it. Rashi, the great medieval exegete, held that the line was a reference to Torah. Said he, it means exalt it and hold it high, because in any hour you will find new meanings in it and go further anything in fact you are seeking. You know, I think of that line every Monday morning as I sit and learn Torah or text actually, with 9 other rabbis online. Our group is reading Midrash Exodus Rabbah. That's a Midrashic commentary on the book of Exodus, and in the Rabbah, or any verse of Torah, or any verse of Exodus, there is a veritable treasury of different meanings, each no doubt having been composed at a different time from the others, and quite often sometimes totally unrelated to any of the others. But each midrash that we read in some way is always relevant, even now. That's the beauty of our tradition, yours and mine. Nothing is fixed. There never is a last word. What was said about the text last year will be different from what we say about it this year, because today's world invariably is different from yesterday's. And tomorrow's, to go further, is going to be different again still. You know, we read something this morning that for CRT totally was new. It is what traditionally is today's Haftarah, that prophetic reading that somehow relates to the Torah reading of today. And since today's traditional Torah reading, which we read last year, by the way, was loaded with issues relating to Sarah's barrenness, something not ending until she was, or so the tradition believes, 90 years of age. As the Torah dealt with barrenness, so does the Haftarah. Sarah was barren. And here in the Haftarah, Hannah is barren. But then 2 more parallel issues arise. In the Torah, the outcome in the reading was the birth of Isaac, and that guarantees the progeniture of the line of the patriarch, something we make reference to literally in every single one of our services. In the Haftarah, the outcome is the birth of Samuel, the progenitor of a whole new brand of Judaism, that of the prophets, Samuel being the first. Take that seriously. Haven't we Reformed Jews been calling our brand of Judaism prophetic Judaism? Anyway, let's not focus on the end of the story, but rather on the 2 protagonists within it, Eli the priest and Hannah, whom I will refer to as Hannah the heroine. But first, come back with me to the class I taught many years ago at USC. That's the University of South Carolina. By the way, there they very derisively referred to the University of Southern California as the other USC. I use the Haftarah from this morning in my class as an important teaching tool because given the part about Eli's taking Hannah's praying as an act of a drunk, my claim was that such proved that until that time, prayer as we know it today simply didn't exist. I mean, why else would Eli have thought such of Hannah? Until then, running a connection between the person and deity was not through words, I said, but through the offering of sacrifices, such as what we saw Elkanah offering up in the Haftarah. And the leitmotif of that was a system worked through the medium of the priesthood. But I was teaching that as, using our Haftarah as an historical document of a particular incident or a paradigm for a shift in the system of one brand of Judaism to another. So now let's move at least 14 or 1500 years from the theoretical time of the writing of the book of Samuel to how the Babylonian Talmud read the story. There and now prayer, or praying as we know it, and as we do here, was the vehicle through which people, we, communicated with God. So the description of Hannah's method of praying isn't about history, rather it's a lesson about how one is supposed to pray. So for a moment, let's look at the Talmudic text. There the text reads, Rav Hamnuna, I love that name, by the way, said, how many significant laws can be derived from these verses of the prayer of Hannah? The text in the original read, and Hannah spoke in her heart, only her lips moved and her voice could not be heard, so Eli thought her to be a drunk. The Gemara elaborates from, and Hannah spoke in her heart. We learn that one who prays must focus their heart when they pray. From only her lips moved, we learn that when one prays, one must enunciate their prayers with their lips, not only contemplate them with their heart. And her voice could not be heard, we learn that one is forbidden to raise their voice in the silent devotion of the service, but their prayer should be recited silently. And so Eli thought her to be a drunk, we learn that a drunk person is forbidden to be a leader of prayer. An aside, which was why, by the way, when Janet and I make Kiddush on Friday night before I'm going to conduct a service, we use grape juice. To get back to my sermon. And then on the subject of Eli's rebuke of Hannah, as it is stated, and Eli said to her, how long will you remain drunk? Remove your wine from yourself. Rabbi Elazar said, from here we learn that one who sees in another committing an unseemly matter, that person must reprimand the other. Think about that. And to go even further, from Hannah's explanation that I have drunk neither wine nor liquor, Rabbi Elazar said, from here we learn that one who is suspected of something of which he is not guilty cannot suffice merely with the personal knowledge of his or her innocence, but must inform the one who suspects him that he is innocent and clear himself of suspicion. And finally, derived from the conclusion of the Haftarah, where we read, and Eli answered and said, may you go in peace. Rabbi Elazar said, from here we learn that one who suspects another of something that person has not done, that person has to appease the other person. Moreover, the one who has suspected that person must bless him. As Eli continued and offered Hannah a blessing, as it said, and may the God of Israel grant your request that you have asked of God. So, from the shift from the biblical text to the text of the Talmud, the point is clear. Judaism is about change. Judaism. Is there really such a thing as Judaism? So here's something important that I'm going to give you this morning about what we call Judaism as an entity spanning the totality of more than 3.5 millennia of the history of our people. Judaism as an overarching faith, religion, philosophy. Judaism as one thing does not exist. Does not exist. Here's the reality. There are many Judaisms: patriarchal, wilderness, prophetic, monarchical, priestly, Pharisaic, Tannaitic, Amoraic, Gaonic, medieval, and that's to name but a few. There are more. In our time, for instance, there are Reform, Conservative, Reconstructionist, Humanist, Renewal, Orthodox in various forms, and others for sure. And what they all share and have in common? Nothing I can think of, except that each is the faith of the people who call themselves Jews, or Hebrews as it was back in the really old days, which, by the way, it's why it was Union of American Hebrew Congregations and Hebrew Union College and Hebrew Benevolent Society, etc., etc. And each one, as any of the adherents turn the rollers of the Torah from passage to passage, as Jill and I did the other day when we were studying the Torah, each time through and over again, invariably in each passage, they find something new, something different. And while often what each finds doesn't agree with what the others at some time or even the same time said the various passages mean, and boy, does that ever happen on Monday morning when we're studying together, all of the meanings are correct, and all are a manifestation of Judaism or some Judaism, full stop, period. You know, you've heard me say many times in the past 2 years that outside of big city Orthodox congregations, many are the congregations which are shrinking. Too often, or this is what appears to me at least, the reason is that congregations are in the main trying to remain as they were years ago. And to most people, the reasons for affiliating with congregations have changed radically from the reasons that people affiliated years ago. Consider your parents, your great-grandparents. So today, because we're still trying to do what we did in the past, people don't affiliate. But it doesn't have to be that way. Change within Judaism is always valid. It's interesting to me that while some refer to CRT as a so-called classical temple, for one, if there is such a thing as a classical Reform Judaism, it isn't the classical Reform Judaism of, say, 75 years ago. And the Judaism of CRT, even within the last 2 years, is different from the Judaism that I saw during the early days when I came here to be your interim rabbi. And that happened not because I was changing things. You, as a congregation, were changing things. And that's the way it should be. And that's the way it should remain. You know, Rosh Hashanah is traditionally believed to be the anniversary of the day on which the world was created. In other words, its message, since it's celebrated each and every year, is that we, as whatever Judaism we are and profess to be, are to create and recreate ourselves with the passage of time over and over and over again still. So as the clarion call of the shofar still rings within our ears, May the shofar sounding that we have heard herald for us, indeed for us all, to renew ourselves each and every time we gather on this day of Rosh Hashanah to celebrate. And as we turn it and turn it again, may the new messages we find within it, all based upon the world that is or will be, bring renewal to ourselves, to our congregation, indeed, as it can be for an entire world. Ken yehi ratzon. So may that be God's will.
Okay, so this is not exactly a presidential address, but it is a few remarks. What I want to talk about is New Year's. And I have to admit that for all my life, until a few days ago when I started thinking about what I wanted to say today, I knew when New Year's was. I know what New Year's Day is. It's January 1st. That's New Year's. Yeah, there's this, sort of Jewish thing we do, in September, and we call it New Year's, and we do our best to try to think about it as, this is really the beginning. But nah, I knew better. I knew better. It was a nice thing to do and so forth, but I knew better. But, one of the things, maybe the central thing about the high holidays is it gives you a chance to think, and it asks you to think, rethink. Think again. Perhaps think a little more deeply about the things you always took for granted. So I thought about it for some more, and I realized, it hit me, the Jews have it right. This is indeed the beginning of the year. Now, I don't want you to take this too far. Don't start, when you're writing out your checks, don't start writing 5783, on the date. The conventional year has its purposes, calendar has its purposes. But why do I say, did I realize that this really is the beginning? Well, let's think about it. Think about, I'm an academic, and of course, it's a new academic year in higher education. But it's also a new academic year for our kids and our grandchildren. They're all starting a new year. They're starting a new grade with new challenges, new opportunities, but they're learning new things, confronting new things. This is the beginning. It's September. It's not January that we begin. In terms of, even in terms of businesses, people who are not related, tied into any kind of academic calendar. Labor Day, was set at the beginning of September on a notion that, okay, people have had a break, and now we're starting again. So this is really the time, not just for Jews in America or elsewhere, to be thinking about starting again. It's really a time when everybody's thinking about starting again. But what's the importance of starting again? Okay, so it's a new year. So what? So what? Well, we think about going back to, the one I grew up with as a largely secular person. The January 1st. What do you have in January 1st? You have New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions are great if you're in the business of running a gym. Because if you've ever been to a gym, in January, it's full. People have signed up for the year. They paid whatever your great deal is for the, for a year of, gym membership. And January, the place is full. By February, not so much. Not so much. Hopefully, our high holidays are a time to make more lasting changes. They're time to really rethink, just as I rethought about New Year's, but time to rethink, really, very importantly, what is it that you've been doing or not doing that you could be doing better? And how could you be doing it better? And what do you need to do? How do you get from here to there? What do you need to do to make it better? And what are you going to do to make it better? So that becomes, a much more meaningful New Year, not just getting high the night before, and dealing with it the next morning, or making a bunch of resolutions of things that you wish, you hope, same resolution you made last year and the year before, that you're not going to do very much with, that you hope this time. No. This really is a real chance to think about, okay, I've done pretty well. I've had a good year. But I could do better. You can always do better. The rabbi mentioned something about being in his 50-something year. I'm in my 54th year of teaching. And, I'm thinking, what can I do differently? Did I have it exactly right last year? If not, how could I change? And how could I make changes that I will keep going? So I think that's why this is the right year. I think people are doing it, even without the benefit of the high holidays. As I said, I think this is a time when people, in general, much more than January 1, September is the time when people begin to say, okay, it's a new year in my life, at least my professional life, or my going to school, or my kids' life, or my grandchildren's life. It's a new year. But take it as an opportunity to say, okay, it's not only a new year, but it's a year that we can all do better with. Here at CRT, you've all, and even those of you who haven't been here before, now have seen our wonderful interim rabbi. We have a equally wonderful settled rabbi, that's the formal term used, a rabbi who we hope will be with us for many, many years, who will basically, with the exception of the high holidays of this year, when he had a commitment to his previous congregation in Oxford, England. But from now on, beginning in Sukkot, he will be here as our rabbi, and he'll be working with us, with the board and the committees we may be setting up, to come up with ways to do things even better here at CRT. And we'll be working very hard on doing that to make the experience of being a member of CRT ever more meaningful and more rewarding. So let me just say, Lashona Tova, Happy New Year.
Thank you, Dick, for those words. We've both been in this business for a long time. But we're not getting older, we're getting better. I hope. Anyway, we continue now on page 111, where we find the text of the Aleinu, the adoration. Let us all stand.
Let us adore the ever-living God. We render praise. earth. Your glory is revealed in the heavens above, and your greatness is manifest throughout the world. Ye are God, there is none else. Anachnu korim u'nishtahvim u'rodim lifnei melech malchei malachim hakadosh baruch hu.
Please be seated. We pray together at the bottom of page 111. May the time not be distant, O God, when your name shall be worshipped in all the earth, when unbelief shall disappear and error be no more. Fervently we pray that the day may come when all people shall invoke your name, when corruption and evil shall give way to purity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye, when all who dwell on earth shall know that to you alone every knee shall bend and every tongue give praise. O may all created in your image recognize that we are brothers and sisters, so that one in spirit and one in harmony, we may be forever united before you. Then shall your reign be established on earth, and the word of your ancient prophet fulfilled. The eternal God will reign forever and ever. On that day, God shall be one, and God's name shall be one. God, source of life, fountain of all good, you have given us dear ones. We rejoice in their love, grow stronger through their care, and are ennobled by their influences. God, you have also established a natural end for life and earthly companionship. Often, we cannot comprehend the larger purpose, yet we trust in God nevertheless. Though the longing within us may seem more than we can bear, we must understand that our grief is according to our blessing. The sorrow of separation is the inevitable price for days and years of precious love. Tears are the tender tribute of yearning affection for those who have passed away but will not be forgotten. Death is not the end. The earthly body vanishes, but the eternal spirit lives on with God. In our hearts also, our loved ones never die. Their love and memory abide as a lasting inspiration, moving us to noble deeds and blessing us evermore. In humble gratitude for their lives and love, and with steadfast faith, we sanctify God's name. So our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, the 6 million who perished in the Shoah, and those of every race, nation, and faith whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. You know, the departed whom we now remember have entered into the peace of life eternal. They still live on earth in the acts of goodness they performed and in the hearts of those of us who cherish their memories. May the beauty of their lives abide among us as a loving benediction. We turn now to page 116, where we find the text of the Kaddish, and we all stand. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'alma divarachirute, v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon u'vyomechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'bizman kariv v'yemru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mebarach la'alam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitchomam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'yalma v'yamru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shmaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru Amen. O Maker of peace in your place on high, make peace for us, make peace for Israel, indeed make peace for all the world. And together let us all say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru Amen. May our God, the source of all peace, bless us with the holy gift of peace, us and all the world. Let us say, Amen.
As we remain standing, our closing Zemirah, our closing hymn, is found on page 118. It's All the World Shall Come to Serve You.
All the world shall come together and praise God's glorious name, and your peace and love triumphant the nation shall proclaim, and the people shall go seeking their unity now restored, and the ends of earth shall praise you, giving thanks for friendship evermore. When we see this new dominion, the hills shall shout with song, and humanity exultant will in harmony be strong, and joined in many congregations, calling God by many names, that create a world of justice and our common destiny proclaim.
Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, O God who blessed our ancestors, O God who was the God and is the God of us all. Indeed, may this time of turning and turning it again, bringing new meanings to our lives, to our experiences. Be a prod for going forth from this place to make the world even better. As you, O God, created the world, so may we recreate it as partners with you in the creation of a better world, might accomplish that goal soon and speedily. Blessed are you in coming here. Blessed be you in going forth from here. May you be filled with the spirit of the renewal of this high holy days, and may it bring goodness to your life today and throughout the coming year. L'shana tova tikatevu. May you be written for a good year in the book of life. Happy New Year.